Today, AstraZeneca is committing to offer all of their prescription medications to Medicaid at most favored nations prices. In other words, the lowest price anywhere in the world, that's what we get. A move that will save American taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars each year.
It's called TrumpRx, and it's part of a strategy of direct negotiation with the world's largest drug companies to lower prescription drug prices for Americans. Some big moves being made with Pfizer, Amgen, and AstraZeneca. But how does it work? And how will it benefit the average American who pays higher drug prices than virtually anyone anywhere else in the world? Let's ask cardiothoracic surgeon, multi-Emmy award-winning television host, and now the administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Dr. Mehmet Oz, joins us here on the program. Good to see you, Doctor. Thank you very much for making time for us. A lot of folks are excited at the prospect of this, but there's also a lot of confusion about how it's going to work and how it's going to benefit those who rely on medications. So tell us what these deals mean and who they will benefit.
So it's called most favored nation drug pricing because, as the president argues, that's what we ought to be able to get. We are responsible for most of the investments in innovation. We want to save lives with people who have cancer or autoimmune problems or Alzheimer's. So we've got to make the right investment. The question is, how much do people pay for it? So if we're already paying most of the bill for actually inventing these products, why are we paying 3 times more on average than any other developed country for the same product made in the same factory in the same bottle? It doesn't make any sense. And for understandable reasons, the president's been very upset about this, has generated lots of calls to me, Secretary Kennedy, and has the entire team laser focused on this fundamental reality that we have got to get pricing of our drugs to be the same as other countries. To do that, as the president argues, you need to raise the prices for these products in other countries a little bit so we can drop them in our country. You also have to have the ability to negotiate using whatever tools we have available. We've got quite a few to get the drug companies to acknowledge, and in a quiet moment they do, that this is not fair for the United States citizens to pay so much more than those in other countries. So we've gotten the success with the leading U.S. company, Pfizer. You just saw the AstraZeneca, which is a leading British company based in Europe. We have a major advantage now in fertility drugs, which are a big part of the cost for young families trying to have children. We have many more coming down the line from the biggest companies. But the whole argument that the president made is let me negotiate. Forget about throwing money at problems. Let me just fix the root problem of healthcare in America by dropping the actual money that we have to spend for healthcare.
Now, it sounds very logical. It sounds really good. There's going to be a website, this TrumpRx.gov website. Talk to us about the mechanics of how people actually benefit from these lower prices.
So TrumpRx is a website that will allow you to get access to any drug you want to be on to find out where it can be sold most advantageously for you. So we're not going to actually sell you the drug. We're going to connect you directly to the manufacturer's website. It might be a pharmacy benefit management company. It could be a GoodRx or Cost Plus type of site. It could be directly to a drugstore in your neighborhood. And we actually want to support drugstores. And you're seeing now the entire business get the shift. On Monday, Tom, there was a big announcement from a major Cigna, a major U.S. pharmacy benefits management company, a middleman company. The companies, they always get maligned. This is one of the leaders. And they said, we're done. We're not playing the games of rebates and these secretive payments behind closed doors. We're going to be very transparent. But here's the catch. Turns out a lot of U.S. companies don't mind this backdoor dealing. Why? Because they get paid rebates that they can use for other purposes. So from now on, this company, and others will follow it, are going to be able to use TrumpRx or other sites to purely transparently tell you exactly the best place to get your drugs. If you give people transparency, they will shop more effectively, right? We buy everything else with knowledge of what it costs. Why would it not be the same with drugs?
When you were last here, we discussed the need for these companies to raise prices, and you mentioned it elsewhere, to mitigate how Americans are subsidizing the rest of the world. We hear that there are some discussions between some of these companies going on with respect to the UK. Do the agreements that we've seen so far address that commitment in any way? And have we seen progress on this realignment that the president wants to see here?
Yes and yes. There is wording in the contracts that will both give companies relief of us tariffing so they can actually continue to work in the United States, but also wanting them to bring, for example, that company AstraZeneca you just showed in the opening package, they are bringing a $4 billion facility to Charlottesville, Virginia. I actually went to the facility to open it with Governor Youngkin, and this is going to be the largest producer of the actual raw material that's used for the weight loss drugs. It's going to be here in America. And so this is a kind of change the president wants. But again, at a very core time, it's critical. While the Democrats are shutting down government, arguing to throw money at the ACA, we're literally dropping the amount of money we would spend to take care of people in these insurance programs. So instead of throwing money at insurance companies, we'd rather reduce the cost overall so we can afford the care we deserve.
This week, I did want to ask you about this. Do you think, Doctor, that the state of Texas jumped the gun in filing that lawsuit against Tylenol? And if so, why?
I'm not sure if the state of Texas did the right thing. I'm not a lawyer, but I do believe that we've been pretty clear. There's evidence that is concerning enough that we wanted to warn the American people, but we don't have a causation. We cannot say that Tylenol or acetaminophen, the raw material, is actually causing autism. And I'm confident that if we do the studies that are required, we will eventually get a lot of evidence one way or the other. But in the meantime, if you're a mom and you're pregnant, you're going to be a mom, and you stub your toe or have a low-grade fever, you should think twice before taking any medication, not just acetaminophen, any medication. If you have a high fever or significant discomfort, you ought to talk to your doctor, and they're going to recommend that you take something like acetaminophen because that's one of the few options we have in that setting.
I really wish that there was a lot more coverage of the administration's approval of leucovorin to help with autism rather than a lot of this acetaminophen discussion.
Tom,
I want to move on.
I'm so happy you asked that question. I got to say, thank you for asking that. Leucovorin, for everyone who doesn't know, is an actual treatment we believe would work with children who have autism today. So the label's being changed before Thanksgiving. We're going to be able to pay for it, that means, so that folks, especially those on Medicaid, half the kids in the country are on Medicaid or CHIP, they'll be able to get access to this high-dose product. It's basically a folate product. It's from B vitamins, from foliage, but it's a very high dose that can bypass problems that kids with autism seem to have in their brain. That's a wonderful example of how the president, Secretary Kennedy, didn't wait a day. As soon as we had evidence that there was some success in clinical trial, we told the American people.
Yeah, I thought that was the big story, and that should have been the bigger story, but everybody, glommed on to the whole Tylenol piece of it. I'm out of time, but I do want to mention before I go that it is Medicare open enrollment period until December 7th, near and dear to your heart. So folks, go out and get enrolled and find out what the benefits are. Folks, he didn't need the job, but he wanted to serve. Dr. Mehmet Oz, always a pleasure having you, sir. Thank you very much.
God bless you, Tom. Take care.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.